Hello, everyone. Welcome to the channel. I'm Phantom Mitchell, and today we dive into one of the darkest and most mysterious cases I've ever come across. The story of Laura Branning, her disappearance, the twisted mind behind it, and the chilling secrets that still haunt this case. Buckle up, because this is going to be a wild ride. On the evening of September 15th, 15-year-old Laura Branning disappeared without a trace. Her parents hadn't expected anything unusual when she left for what seemed like an innocent meeting with a new online friend, Jason, but when she stepped outside, she vanished. No screams, no messages, just silence. Her phone went dark, and all contact stopped. Her parents, frantic, called the police, but even after hours of searching, no sign of Laura appeared. The chilling question lingered: where had she gone? As the hours passed, panic set in. Laura never stayed out late without letting someone know. Her phone, her lifeline, was silent. The family feared the worst. Authorities launched an investigation, questioning neighbors and checking for any sign of her. Surveillance footage showed nothing unusual. It was as if she had simply vanished into thin air. There was no trace, no lead, just emptiness. The quiet felt suffocating. What could have happened to her? Was she lost, or was someone behind her disappearance? Detectives dug deeper into Laura's life, uncovering her online interactions. A man named Jason had been the last person she'd contacted. His profile picture was too perfect, almost too polished. They soon realized Jason wasn't his real name. His entire persona was fabricated. He had targeted Laura, using charm and manipulation to lure her out of her home. It was only after digging into his history that the police realized Laura wasn't his first victim. Jason had a pattern, a dangerous one. But who was he really, and where was he hiding? Days passed, and Laura's disappearance remained a mystery. But then came a tip. Someone claimed to have seen a girl matching Laura's description. She had been running through an alley, her eyes wide with terror, as if something or someone was chasing her. The witness had tried to catch up, but the girl disappeared into the darkness. Was it Laura? Had she been running from someone? If so, who? The chilling thought began to take hold: someone had been hunting her. But who was this predator? The investigation took the police down a series of dead ends. No further sightings of Laura, no messages, no clues. Every lead turned to dust, as if someone was intentionally erasing every trace. The more they dug, the more confusing it became. Could Laura have run away? Or had something far more sinister happened to her? As time passed, fear began to set in. The longer Laura was missing, the more likely it seemed that she was in the hands of someone dangerous. Weeks later, the police tracked Jason's IP address to a remote apartment. Upon searching the place, they discovered something horrifying: a secret room. Inside were dozens of photos of young women, each one marked with dates and unsettling notes. One photo stood out: Laura's. It was pinned to the wall, her face circled. It was clear now Jason was not a lone predator. He had a history of grooming and targeting young women. But why was Laura so important? What did Jason want with her? Jason's true identity began to surface. He had been in and out of police custody for years, always on the fringes of criminal activity. He had a history of manipulation, using fake online personas to prey on vulnerable young women. Laura wasn't the first. She wasn't even the last. The investigation revealed a string of disappearances that stretched back several years, all connected to Jason. Each woman had been lured in by the same story, the same charm. What was his endgame? What made Laura stand out? After weeks of silence, a shocking clue arrived: an anonymous phone call. The caller had seen Laura in a grocery store, acting strangely, as if someone was watching her. The tip-off wasn't much, but it hinted at something deeper. Laura might have been trying to escape, but who was she running from? The thought of her hiding, terrified, was unbearable. Was Jason still after her, or was there something else going on? The unanswered questions piled up. Was she alive? Was she being held captive? Or had she already vanished forever? As the investigation expanded, detectives discovered more victims, women who had experienced eerily similar disappearances, all tied to Jason's online presence. His friends were all young women he had lured in through various fake identities. What was his ultimate goal? To control. To break them down emotionally. To what end? The more they uncovered, the more the pieces of the puzzle seemed to connect. And yet, the question remained, where was Laura now? And who could stop this predator before he struck again? Jason was eventually arrested, but his confession was chilling. He revealed nothing about Laura's fate, only describing in cold detail how he lured each of his victims, manipulated them, and discarded them when they were no longer useful. He gave no indication of where Laura was, no clue about her condition. Every lead he offered was just a dead end. Laura's family felt their hope slip away as Jason remained silent, even when pressed for answers. Was she dead? Or was she still alive, somewhere, waiting for someone to find her? Days turned into weeks, and still, there was no sign of Laura. The case had gone cold. Every tip seemed to lead nowhere. Authorities continued to search, but each hour that passed without progress felt like a new nail in the coffin. The fear that Laura was lost forever was overwhelming. Yet, there was a constant nagging feeling someone knew more than they were letting on. Someone was hiding the truth, and that person was Jason, but even he refused to crack. It seemed that Laura's disappearance was a puzzle with pieces that would never fit. After months of dead ends, a new lead surfaced. An old acquaintance of Jason's came forward, claiming he had mentioned something cryptic in the past about a final victim. Could this be about Laura? The timing was uncanny, and the thought that Laura had been specifically chosen for some dark, twisted reason was almost too much to bear. The lead brought a glimmer of hope, but as the investigation deepened, they realized the stakes had only gotten higher. Jason was playing a much more dangerous game than anyone had realized. What had he planned for Laura? Police continued their relentless search for clues, but each discovery raised more questions than it answered. The deeper they dug into Jason's life, the more disturbing it became. His past was a mess of lies, manipulation, and violent tendencies. He wasn't just a predator, he was a master at deception, weaving webs of trust only to destroy them, and Laura had been caught in that web. But what had happened to her? Had Jason hidden her somewhere? Or had something gone terribly wrong? Weeks later, a chilling note was discovered, written in Laura's handwriting, found in an abandoned house just outside the city. The message was short and vague, but its meaning was clear. I'm sorry. I couldn't get away. Had Laura written this herself? Was she still alive when it was written? Or was it a final act of despair? The note opened up a flood of new questions. What had happened to her? Was she forced to write it? Or had she been able to escape for a brief moment before being recaptured? As the investigation continued, more false leads surfaced. Someone claimed to have seen Laura in a nearby town. Others insisted they had heard her voice on the phone. But when these leads were followed, they turned out to be empty. The frustration grew. Laura's family clung to any shred of hope, but the reality was that each passing day without answers made it harder to believe she was still alive. The unknown was suffocating, and every false lead only made the situation worse. Would they ever find her? The pressure on investigators was immense. Every day that passed without progress seemed to chip away at their resolve. The search for Laura felt like it was slipping through their fingers. More than one investigator began to question whether they had missed something critical early on. Could Jason have had help? Was there a deeper conspiracy they had overlooked? As the walls closed in on Jason, he seemed to grow more defiant, more silent. His refusal to cooperate only heightened the mystery. What was he hiding, and could anyone break through? Could Laura have been kept there, hidden beneath the house? The thought was terrifying. The basement. The possibility that Laura had been trapped in plain sight all along sent chills through everyone involved. Was this the key to unraveling the entire mystery? Could Laura have been kept there, hidden beneath the house? The thought was terrifying. The basement. The possibility that Laura had been trapped in plain sight all along sent chills through everyone involved. Was this the key to unraveling the entire mystery? With the new lead, police raided Jason's property once again. This time, they found something horrific. Behind a false wall in the basement, they discovered a hidden room. Inside was evidence of Jason's manipulation. More photos, more clippings, and even recordings of his victims. But there was no sign of Laura. The room had been abandoned for months. Had she been there at some point? Or was this just another twisted part of Jason's game? The discovery was chilling, but it led to more questions than answers. The hunt was far from over. Jason's trial began, but it was anything but ordinary. As witnesses came forward, detailing their harrowing encounters with Jason, it became evident just how deep his twisted influence went. He had been controlling and manipulating people for years. But throughout the trial, Jason maintained his silence about Laura. He never mentioned her once, leaving everyone to wonder if she was still alive or if she had already become another victim in his long list of disappearances. His refusal to acknowledge her was unsettling. Was he hiding something even darker? After months of investigations, Jason finally broke his silence. The confession was chilling, a grotesque recount of his actions. But when it came to Laura, he simply smirked. She was never meant to be found, he whispered. She was the last piece. What did that mean? What had Jason done to her, and why did he think she would never be found? His cryptic statement sent shockwaves through the investigation. Was Laura still alive, or had Jason already claimed her? The questions remain unanswered, leaving a terrifying void. As the trial neared its conclusion, a strange discovery was made. A hidden journal was found in Jason's belongings, and within its pages was a chilling entry. Laura will be the one who ends it all. No one will ever know where she is. It was cryptic, but it gave investigators a faint hope that Laura was still alive. The journal revealed that Jason had planned for this moment, setting up a twisted final act where he would disappear along with his final victim. What did he mean? What had he planned for Laura? The final mystery loomed larger than ever. Determined to find Laura and put an end to the nightmare, investigators refocused their efforts on Jason's past and his connections. They discovered a network of people who had unknowingly assisted him, and they began to unravel more of his methods. Every person Jason had manipulated or trapped had been part of a puzzle. But where did Laura fit? The clock was ticking, and every passing minute seemed to erase any hope of finding her alive. The chilling idea began to form. Could Jason have been hiding her all along, just waiting for the right moment to reveal his final plan? As the investigation delved deeper, Jason's past came to light in full force. He had been carefully crafting a network of support, people he could manipulate or use as pawns in his sick game. One person, an ex-girlfriend, revealed that Jason had been obsessed with the idea of creating the perfect final victim, someone who would never be found, who would be lost in the dark recesses of his world forever. Laura, it seemed, had been chosen for this role all along. She was never meant to return. Was she already lost forever, or had she been playing Jason's twisted game too? Jason's manipulation reached its peak as the trial began to wrap up. There were no more clues, no more hints, just silence. Laura was still missing, and Jason, despite everything, remained eerily calm. Authorities began to consider the possibility that Jason had arranged for her disappearance in such a way that no one would ever find her again. Had Laura been a part of his plan all along? The investigators were left with the haunting realization that Jason had orchestrated everything down to the very last detail. And in that silence, there was no peace, only growing fear. Detectives, desperate to find answers, started re-examining the places Jason had lived, focusing on areas where he could have hidden Laura. They searched every abandoned building, every forest, every secluded spot. But every lead came up empty. The questions became more terrifying with each passing day. Had Jason been hiding her this whole time? Or had he already moved on to another dark plan? The silence became suffocating. No one knew where she was. No one knew if she was alive. It was as if she had vanished into the ether, leaving only the chilling echoes of her disappearance. Just when it seemed like all hope was lost, a survivor came forward. Another young woman who had once been caught in Jason's web. She spoke about how she had escaped, how she had been manipulated and controlled but eventually broke free. Her testimony, while disturbing, offered a glimmer of hope. She revealed that there was always a way out of Jason's grip, but it required strength, something Laura might still possess. Could Laura still be out there, fighting to survive, or was she lost forever, a victim of Jason's twisted mind? In an unexpected twist, the authorities received a call from a small town miles away from the original search area. A woman who had been acting strangely in the local coffee shop was brought in. She had been in hiding, terrified for her life. When investigators showed her a picture of Laura, the woman hesitated before finally speaking. "I think it was her," she said quietly. "She was here a few weeks ago. She looked so scared." The lead was faint, but it was something. Could this be the breakthrough they needed to find Laura? Or was it just another false lead? The clock was running out. The authorities pushed forward, following any and every clue, no matter how small. The search for Laura had become more than just an investigation, it had become an obsession. But as the days dragged on, it was clear, the more they searched, the further Laura seemed to slip away. Had she been out of their reach all along? Or was she still trapped somewhere, waiting for someone to find her? The fear grew that Jason had planned this final disappearance perfectly, and Laura was lost forever. In the end, the investigation came to a heartbreaking conclusion. Jason's final confession revealed that he had kept Laura alive for months before finally letting her go, to disappear into the shadows. The final message she left behind was a desperate cry for help. "I couldn't escape." They won, but it was too late. Laura's fate was sealed. She had been part of Jason's twisted game from the beginning, and in the end, she had paid the ultimate price. The truth came out, but it was a bitter one, and the town would never forget the dark shadow of her disappearance. As the investigation closed, Laura's family was left with nothing but questions. No closure, no peace, only the haunting mystery of what had happened to their daughter. The police had done everything they could, but in the end, they had lost. Laura was gone. Jason had gotten away with it, and the final mystery would remain unsolved. Why had Laura been chosen? What had she endured in the final moments of her life? Those questions would forever linger, unanswered. And the fear remained. Were there more like her out there, still waiting for someone to find them? And that's it for today's investigation. But the mystery ain't over. If you want to know more about what happened to Laura and how this case shook the town to its core, make sure you subscribe now. You won't want to miss the next part of the story. Hit that bell and join us for more chilling investigations. Stay safe, stay alert, and I'll see you in the next video.